Welcome everybody to the 49th meeting of Soteria, where we should be hearing Father Frank Gelli, who most of us know, introducing the Harry Potter series with the title The Harry Potter Story, Appreciation and a Critique, which I, for one, should be very interested in hearing, because I think that Harry Potter is something that everybody knows by name, and many, many people don't know more than the name and the fame. So without more ado, over to Father Frank.
Well, thank you for inviting me to do this. I shall begin by general introduction. So the Harry Potter series is the most successful best-selling series in history. The books have sold more than 500 million copies. Some people say 600 million, but they say at least 500 million copies worldwide. It has been translated in 79 languages and made into 8 stratospherically successful films, which have grossed more than £5 billion. There is also currently in Theatreland a stage play, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, parts 1 and 2, which opens in London's West End in 2016, and is still on at the Palace Theatre in Cambridge Circus. Maybe, Stead, would you like perhaps to show, because that actually is quite easy to identify. It shows the front of the Cambridge Circus, where it shows no, that's we show that another one. No, go on, scroll on. Sorry, I should have done it. Here it is. Yes, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. That is the front facade of the Palace Theatre in Cambridge, and it's been on for many years. And it's very difficult to get tickets of, and it's quite expensive tickets. And briefly, this is actually is the continuation of the series of books, because the Cursed Child is Harry Potter's own child, because he's sent to the School of Wizardry and Witchcraft, Harry Hogwarts. But sorry, shall we stop that for a moment? And shall I go on reading? Coming back to the author, JK Rowling, she is the first author in the world, apparently, to achieve a net worth of £1 billion. £1 billion. She has also created a digital company, Pottermore, where fans can enjoy her new writing, because she's written a lot of stuff, even detective stories, and get deeper into the wizarding world. And JK Rowling's Twitter account has more than 14 million followers. And before I forget, apparently, and I learned this from this book, which is the last of the Harry Potter series, apparently Harry Potter has been translated into Latin and into ancient Greek. Now, I can't imagine who would buy, how many people would buy Harry Potter in Latin or ancient Greek, but I mean, that's what he says here. So I assume that is right. And he also it has been translated to Welsh and Irish and so on. So the Harry Potter power seems unstoppable, because there is also something called Potter tourism, which is like casting a spell, and a weak pun here, casting a spell on Britain's tourism industry in a positive way. And there are tours. There was a very good article in the Financial Times about Potter tourism, even in places like the Shambles in York. There was Shambles, you probably know, if you know a Shambles in York, it's a fascinating, intricate maze of alleys, but they're not actually connected with the Harry Potter stories. But now they created there's something sort of presumably vaguely magical about it. It's a thriving Harry Potter area for walks and tourism, and of course the Harry Potter Studios, Harry Potter Studio Tour, Warner Brothers at Leavesden near London, more than 17 million visitors. Seems to me that this is pretty sort of you know, in a way, it emphasized why Harry Potter is not a piffling affair. But is in objective term, it's big stuff. And as I was mentioning before, I myself, one of the hats I wear is a tourist guide, and I've done Harry Potter walks. And I'm sure my knowledge of Harry Potter will be enriched by the research I've done for this talk. I wanted to mention briefly, there are, of course, the Harry Potter sites in London connected with Harry Potter. And if we go back, please, Ted, there is one especially, which is the most popular. I think it was the top one, the first one you showed, showing, yes, this one, yes. This is a King's Cross. And this is the platform, the 9¾ platform, which is mentioned in Harry Potter's books, because from this platform, you take a train to go to Hogwarts, the School of Magic and Witchcraft. Now, of course, there was no 9¾ platform at King's Cross, but Harry Potter, his spell is so powerful they now put it in. And when I went on to take this picture, actually there was a big queue. And actually I managed that to take a proper picture, you have to pay. And what you do, you take a trolley, and the trolley and you speed right into the wall, in this case, of course, and you have a chap who's pointing, he's got a wand, a magic wand. But the wand, of course, is not opening up, but in the books, the trolley with the luggage of these boys and girls who go to Hogwarts, will go through the wall, and on the other side there is a train waiting to take them to Hogwarts. It is a popular site, and all the Harry Potter walks usually end up at King's Cross because what is now, if you can scroll down, please, now. Now this, sorry, the pub, this is the Marquis of Salisbury's pub. It's in just off Charing Cross Road, and it is there is in one of the Harry Potter books, there is a reference to a pub near the Leaky Cauldron. The Leaky Cauldron is a kind of a magical site in Harry Potter. Now, this is not actually, if you've been inside the Earl of Salisbury's pub, it's a very interesting site. There's a lot of stuff connected with and I love the figure of the Earl of Salisbury. He was Prime Minister, a great Victoria Prime Minister, and I love the anecdote. He was a very absent-minded guy, and on one occasion there was a big sort of party to one of his I forget the name of his famous stately home somewhere in the south of England. But anyway, the Marquis noticed a strange man wandering around amongst the guests. So he went up to him and said, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And the boy replied, "Sir, I'm your son." Which just conveys how absent-minded Salisbury was, but also is quite realistic in a way, because it was a custom to send your children to boarding school, public schools, not like Hogwarts, but real public school. So parents wouldn't necessarily have seen very much of his children. But can you please scroll down? Now,
I'll go
thank
back.
you. Scroll. Well, this is actually, scroll further down, please.
Okay.
Okay. So here. Now this is magic money. Magic money. It is on display in a shop in Cecil Court. Cecil Court is just off Charing Cross Road, and it is a great alley because in Cecil Court is also Watkins, which is London's premier occult bookshop, which is where you can buy book, esoteric book, occult books, books on magic, if you want to call it magic. And it was where someone, another magician, real in inverted commas, in the sense Harry Potter's fantasy, but Aleister Crowley, I think I gave a talk on Crowley to you,
Yes,
didn't I?
indeed.
Yeah. Aleister Crowley was did frequent the Watkins book in Cecil Court, and there will be a lot to say about him, but I'm not going to, it's not really relevant. But Cecil Court is actually supposed to be Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley appears in Harry Potter books, and is an alley, a cobblestone alley, frequented by wizards and witches. Now, to be fair, JK Rowling apparently said, I've never seen this alley court in my life, but I mean, there is something kind of magical about this alley, which in a way, and President Watkins, and there's other little bookshops which are quite interesting actually, where you can buy first editions or interesting writers. But so it's one of the sites on a Harry Potter walk. We will always do Cecil Court. Can you scroll?
I think we have a picture of Watkins actually. Yes.
Oh yes, I forgot that took it. Actually, this is a picture of Watkins. Yes, indeed. Yes, it shows you can have your palm read also in Watkins. Something which is I always find very creepy. I would not wish to have my palm read. But isn't there an Oscar Wilde story? Lady Windermere's fan?
Yeah.
In which someone, a palmist, has his palm read, and of course something terrible happens to him. So of course I'm Italian, and we Italians do have a substrate of superstition. Of course, I don't take it very seriously, but it is there. Sorry, can you scroll? I can't remember now actually what I've got. But oh yes, so that we have done. Oh no, the House of Spells. No, this one. This is interesting because this is walking down from Cambridge Circus, from a Palace Theatre, walking down Charing Cross Road towards Cecil Court. You see this shop. There is actually, this is an example of many shops which are all over London, near the, for example, Sherlock Holmes Museum and other places, were dedicated to items connected with Harry Potter. You Harry Potter hats, clothes, wands. I even bought a Harry Potter wand for my walk, but I mean, I resisted the temptation. I thought it was a little bit too clownish. Can you scroll up again? I think we've done that. We've done that. We've done that. I think we may.
This door?
I can't remember. Oh yes, this is coming after Cecil Court. One crosses a road, and there is sorry, here I'm guilty of this, but I can't remember the name of his alley, but it's incredibly. Oh yes, it's incredibly atmospheric. It really is very narrow, and it's got some very peculiar windows. But this is a door, a real door in this alley, showing Weasel's welcome. Weasel welcome. So it indicates the fact that they know it is a place where people, fans of Harry Potter books, like to hang out. And I think this is probably the last one.
Father Frank, can you explain what I think it says? Mugglers or mugglers, something tolerated on the beneath Wizard's Welcome.
So I can't actually. You can read it. What does it say?
I think it says mug.
Oh, yeah, muggles. Oh, yes.
Muggles, right.
Thank you for reminding me, because muggles is the name for those who do not have magical wizardry or witchcraft powers. Because to be a magician or a witch in the world of Harry Potter, you had to be born one. But there is actually a footnote here. It doesn't mean you're a pure magician, because you're actually half-blood. Actually, one of the books is called Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince. But muggles, I mean, all of us here, unless one of you is, unbeknownst to me, a magician or a witch, we are all muggles, because we are not born magicians. So this is saying, even if you're not a magician, you're welcome. So it's a bit sarcastic, ironic, or humorous. Okay. But thank you for pointing it out. I'd forgotten.
Shall I go up? I think we've not.
Is there anything else? I think. There's three little. One is an owl. One is well, these are little figures which from the Harry Potter movies. I don't think I got much to say about this, but again, it's in a little shop window in this little alley. Sorry, so I can't remember the name of this particular alley, but just off.
Cecil Court, is it?
Cecil Court. Off Cecil Court, you just cross the road, and that's a name where, oh boy, I'm blank now. Sign of decrepitude creeping up on me. It's where the anyway, let's leave it at that. Okay. So let's finish with no more scrolling. But
right, I think that's all of the.
Yeah, that's all. Yes. Right. Yeah, that's finished. But there are many other sites connected with Harry Potter in London. For example, the Millennium Bridge. Millennium Bridge, which was opened for year 2000, designed by Lord Foster or Lord Foster Studio, is attacked and destroyed by the Death Eaters. Death Eaters are followers of evil magicians, followers of Voldemort, and more about Voldemort later. In the novel Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and they destroy the bridge. So that is one of the sites that I didn't have time or inclination to go take a photograph of the Millennium Bridge, but you probably know what it looks like. There is Westminster Tube Station. Westminster Tube Station. This is coming up. Something funny coming up on my screen. Give me a moment. I don't know why this comes up. Oh, here we are. Yes. Westminster Tube Station. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry and Mr. Weasley go to Westminster Tube Station. Now, usually when filming a tube station, in many films, a convention, they use a ghost station. A ghost here means one of these no longer used stations, tube stations, which are now under the ground. But in this case, it was thought important to use the real Westminster Station. And apparently, they needed a vote in Parliament to allow Westminster Tube Station to be used for real for the film, which I think quite intriguing. You need a vote in Parliament to authorize, but I mean, Harry Potter was so important, presumably Parliament had to do it. And there is a Scotland place, which is off, the Horse Guards in Westminster, and again, Harry Potter and Mr. Weasley go down, they enter a red telephone booth and go down to a Ministry of Magic down underground. But the red telephone booth, unfortunately, it has been removed recently. There is one, but it's not where it should be. But far away, you can see the Ministry of Defense. Assume there is also Australia House by Aldwych, the Australia High Commission, where they filmed a famous scene of the first Harry Potter movie showing the Gringotts Bank. That is and last but not least, Trafalgar Square. Trafalgar Square is important on the Harry Potter trail because the world premiere of the last of the Harry Potter films was conducted in Trafalgar Square. And the Harry Potter mania reached such a fever pitch. The premiere was, the place was absolutely chock-a-block. And they laid out a huge red carpet around Nelson's column. And all the main characters of the Harry Potter movies were there. Daniel Radcliffe had to jet back from New York, apparently, for the occasion. Incidentally, a minor footnote. Sometimes I tell tourists that I could have taught at Hogwarts, not because I'm a magician, no, I don't have a gift, but because I nearly taught Harry Potter, namely, by which I mean Daniel Radcliffe. Because many moons ago, I did a PGCE, postgraduate certificate in education, at the City of London School, where, not in my days, many years later, Daniel Radcliffe was shortly a student, or for a short time a student. Now, the City of London School is no longer where it was in my days by Blackfriars Bridge, but it is now by the Millennium Bridge. But, and incidentally, the City of London School, at least has a strong support from Jewish students. In my day, nearly a third of the students were Jewish. And by the way, Daniel Radcliffe technically is Jewish because his mum is Jewish. And of course, in Judaism, you get your, but he's not, as far as I know, he's not religious. But I'm mentioning this as a side way, so to speak. So I think I have mentioned some of the main, more sites connected with Harry Potter. But now I want, if I may, go back to Harry Potter himself. So who is Harry Potter? He's, of course, a fictional character created by JK Rowling. He's a young wizard. He's an orphan. He was orphaned. His parents, when he was still a baby, were murdered by Voldemort, who is the villain of the Harry Potter stories. And Harry Potter has spectacles, bespectacled boy. They say that spectacles add an element of, how should I say, vulnerability, fragility to a young face. Some people say they can also be sexy, but I'll leave that on one side. I don't mean to have a go at you, but I used to know someone who felt that his spectacles were sexy. Anyway, so he's played by Daniel Radcliffe, as I mentioned, and so his parents were murdered by the Dark Lord, Voldemort, who's also sometimes referred to as he whom should not be named, because his name is so, there is actually a superstition or whatever it is, but some names are not. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm putting my head over a chopping block. When I was a follower of Julius Evola in this a group of extremists in Rome in my misspent youth, he would not usually mention Evola's name directly, because the idea that he brought bad luck, because it's so powerful name, And I remember once leaving one of his meetings, I nearly went under a bus. So I said to myself, no, that is a proof. Sorry, all this is somewhat frivolous. But he was actually he was brought up by his relatives, uncle and aunt, who the Dursley family, who were actually very unpleasant to Harry, treating Harry quite cruelly. And they have a son called Dudley. And here's the little footnote. Dudley is fat. And it was recently I read somewhere that someone banging on about you should not portray bad characters in plays and stories as fat, because there's a prejudice against the people at large. So that's beside the point. They are also muggles, but no magicians. So they hate, especially Mrs. Dursley hated Harry's mum because she was a magical kind of person. Now, at Hogwarts, and more about Hogwarts shortly, Harry's favorite friends are a boy and a girl. The girl is Hermione Granger. She's played by Emma Watson. And I always felt Hermione is absolutely delightful. She is a delightful girl, and now. The first Harry Potter starts when the children are still pubertal, pre-pubertal, they're small. But all the stories, they grow older. So later on, Emma Watson becomes an attractive young girl, and of course, eventually she marries Ron, who is the third of a trio. Ron Weasley is played by Rupert Grint. And Ron he's got red hair, and he's taller than because actually Daniel Radcliffe is quite a small boy, a small character even as an adult. I don't know if I should mention, or maybe should I mention this? Daniel Radcliffe went on to play in a part in a film called Empire. Has anybody heard of the name, this film Empire? In which he plays a secret agent who infiltrates a far-right organization of neo-Nazis. So maybe it's part of the magical mission. I mentioned sort of Hermione and Ron, who is his constant companions in all the stories. And as I say, they grow up from children, they become young adults. And actually, this the question, some people think this is children's literature. Well, in fact, it's more fair to describe it as young adults literature. And I've come across some adult people who say, we love Harry Potter, and who read Harry Potter. So you don't have to be a child to enjoy Harry Potter. Now, what have I got here? I'm going back to some notes. Yes.
Father Frank, might I just briefly
Sorry,
make
you
sure
want us?
I've understood the details. His parents were murdered by the Dark Lord. Did you say?
Dark Lord, more about him shortly.
Yeah.
Is the evil guy par excellence, and you need a villain. You need an evil person in the stories, and that is Voldemort.
And Harry Potter, but it is by his ancestry destined to be a magician. Is that the case? And he's brought up by people that are rather hostile to that.
He's a magician by birth,
right.
Because his mother was a magician.
Okay.
So in that sense, he's got the gift. He has a gift.
What about his dad? What about his real father? Because I'm getting the sense that maybe they
okay.
Because it is the
Janine, you
mixed
got me there
marriage kind of
because
thing.
I don't remember now if his father was also a magician, but his mother certainly was.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
is okay to be half blood, half magical and half non-magical to be a magician. Because actually one of the things which JK Rowling wants to make clear that this was in order to point out how bad the Voldemort's bad gang are. They want to they pursue pure blood. They want pure blood dynasty to rule. So there is obviously some kind of
agenda, yeah,
woke element as well. But leaving that
yeah. I
Yeah.
see. So he's antagonistic towards Harry Potter because his father was not.
No, I'm not talking. No, this I already pleaded guilty to Janine. I don't remember if his father is, but certainly his mother was a magician.
Because
His
if he
father
was,
might have been a muggle.
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah,
Okay, is it clear?
yeah, yeah.
So, because you go to Hogwarts, because you are admitted to Hogwarts, I mean, they all, from my research, it seems that everybody is Hogwarts is a magician, but that doesn't mean you cannot be a bad guy. For example, one of the constant antagonists of Harry Potter is another boy who's called Draco Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. He is a bully. And some of us who were, well, I mean, we were all at school at some stage, we can remember bullies. And, you know, a bully is a very unpleasant kind of person. And he really tries to make Harry's life secret. Now, the name is very interesting. That brings me up something very important. JK Rowling has a gift for names. Actually, it was Roger Scruton. He compares that to Dickens. In Dickens' names, Dickens had a gift for names. You know, Peggotty, Wackford Squares, and my favorite bad guy in Dickens, Wackford Squares. He whacks the pure boys. Now, Draco Malfoy, Draco, I need not say too much about this, but Draco, dragon, Malfoy, and Malfoy, do you remember Malvolio in Twelfth Night? Malvolio is a combination of mal, which could be French for the mal, or it could be malum in Latin, volio, I wish, I will evil, or something like that. And many, Rowling has a certain taste and inclination for Latin. She puts Latin references in more, and of course, the most blatant example of a name which refers to how bad the guy is, Voldemort. Voldemort, again, vol, presumably I will, mort, death, I will death. But there's actually another explanation which was given in religion, but that is my account. Voldemort is I will death. But also, although he pursues immortality, and he wants to, one reason he wants to destroy the muggles, but he wants the world only to be populated by his magicians, but they got to be magicians all. Now, characters in Harry Potter are a galaxy, a profusion of characters, and you can easily get lost in, unless you are a Harry Potter maniac and you mugged it all up. But I'm not quite like that. But some of interesting names are, first, the good ones. The chief good one is Professor Albus Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore, Albus means white, of course, in Latin. And Albus Dumbledore is the headmaster of Hogwarts, of a school. He's got long white hair and a long beard. And especially because he's been played by different actors. The first Dumbledore was Richard Harris. He then kicked the bucket and was replaced by Michael Gambon. Michael Gambon, he also kicked the bucket eventually, but yeah, that's the way it is. And his beard, his long beard, which was there was a string which was sort of firming up halfway, which was very characteristic. But he's a good guy. And eventually he will be killed by Voldemort, but there is actually a twist because he re-emerges as again a positive kind of ghost towards the end. The next good person is, of course, what's her name? Well, there is Professor Minerva McGonagall. Minerva McGonagall, one of the professors, Hogwarts, and Minerva, again, the name is significant. Minerva, the goddess of wisdom in Latin mythology. And she's played by Maggie Smith, great actress. And she's still alive, I'm glad to say. One great character, of course, I should not forget to mention him, is Hagrid, who is a half giant and who is played by what's his name now? Robbie Coltrane. And he's playing a sort of groundskeeper at Hogwarts. And he appears in all the stories. He's a very popular character. He's a giant, but he's good. Now, let's come to the baddies now. And I always say the baddies are, I'm sorry to say, the baddies tend to be often more interesting than the goodies. One is Professor Severus Snape. And again, Severus, severe. He's played by Alan Rickman, who's also gone to a higher world after films were over. And he torments. He doesn't like Harry. He gives him a hard time. And he's discovered in the end that he's an agent of Voldemort. But no, in the end, because there are many twists. In fact, no, he acted against Voldemort. But again, that is he wanted to protect Harry. There is a slightly ludicrous figure, Dolores Umbridge, who he played by Imelda Staunton, who is, she's a bureaucrat. She's a fussy, interfering, negative bureaucrat from the Ministry of Magic. And she gives poor Harry a hard time. She's bad, but not too bad, so to speak. But the person who's really awful is Bellatrix Lestrange. Bellatrix, I think it's bellum, bellare, war in Latin. Wasn't she a figure in mythology? She served Voldemort as a Death Eater. Death Eater want to be immortal, so they want to eat death and destroy death. She's very sadistic and homicidal, and she's played by Helena Bonham Carter very effectively. And finally, once again, Lord Voldemort. The Archvillain. He's played by Ralph Fiennes or Fiennes, I don't know how to pronounce it in the books. He is the Lord who must not be named, the Dark Lord. He's obsessed with blood purity. One of the reasons he destroys Miranda, wait a minute, will be non-wizards. They want to have pure blood dominance. Is opposed to wizard-muggle marriages. There's some kind of reference to some. He was actually Voldemort originally an ordinary boy. He was Tom Riddle, was a real name, but he became via and various processes of badness. He became Voldemort, and now Voldemort is portrayed. Poor Ralph Fiennes must have had a hard time to wear his makeup because Voldemort has no nose. His nostrils have been twisted into his face, and there are only two little fissures. But the point is that his face looks like the face of a snake. So for children, or for the readers of Harry Potter who were initially children, he portrays evil as really ugly. which is in a way quite shallow, because in some of the most interesting descriptions of Lucifer in Christian metaphysical mythology, Lucifer is beautiful. He's a dark angel. He was very beautiful, but of course he became. But sorry, that's getting off on a tangent. But one of Voldemort's agents is Nagini. Like another interesting, because Nagini is a huge snake. And Naga, state, you've been to India recently, you know Hindi. Naga is the name for a snake. So Nagini is the name of the snake of Voldemort. But Nagini, eventually, the last story, Nagini's heads will be cut off with a single blow of a sword by someone called Neville. So Nagini gets a comeuppance. Now, at some stage, we are going to do some readings, presumably. Shall I mention briefly?
Oh, yeah, just Father Frank, yeah, I actually I have some bad news about that. Just when I was about to open this text, there is a reason why this lady is very rich, and that's because it's still in copyright. And this book, even though it was sort of available, seemingly, it can't be opened. So that was slightly disappointing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I had thought, yeah, I was surprised to have found it because it's still in
yeah, we don't want to be, we don't want to fall into trouble, do we?
Well, I mean, it's yeah. So
no, I don't want to cause any trouble. No, please.
Oh no, I mean, I can't open it. It doesn't allow that.
Well, I got
this. It's a very banal interpretation. It's obviously magical stuff.
I don't know if yes. Well, she's very money savvy. Let's put it mildly. Yes. I don't know if that counts or what kind of curse that is, but
I mean, on this Internet Archive, all the other books, you know, this idea to sort of archive stuff that one can read, but this book in particular, it's when one.
So, are you telling me even if I, for example, read out from this, would that be breaching copyright?
Oh no, I don't think so. No. I mean, I think if you'd I mean, if this is just for, and this is a non-for-profit organization,
right.
we can,
well, I mean.
Fine. That's fine.
I should have sent you a copy of this. I'm sorry.
It's my fault anyway.
Completely. No, it's my fault, actually.
No.
But shall I go on and then, I don't know, may have a discussion, may read bits of it?
Absolutely, Father Frank. I mean, this is still very interesting. So, yeah, please.
So,
please go on.
what I was wanting to move on to, the Roger Scruton's take on Harry Potter. Roger Scruton was a philosopher, British philosopher. It was one of my lecturers at Berber College, London, many months ago.
That is interesting. I didn't know that.
I did my BA from 76 to 79, so a few years ago. Roger was a lecturer, and he had a very sort of old fogey kind of look of a jacket he wore, the way he walked about, his accent. Roger actually came from a very ordinary family.
Yeah.
And I think he had later on, it was quite clear, the chip on his shoulder about it, because but he went to Cambridge and he sounded perfectly posh. But anyway, so Roger makes some comments, and you can find actually the talk on YouTube, so you can go directly to a source. So he makes a point that Harry Potter's books are not lowbrow literature. They're not. And he says that Rowling is a figure, a literary figure of towering importance. And he compares her to writers have done The Wyndham of Willows and indeed Peter Pan. And he says only a writer could touch universal sentiments, as she does in the books, could have achieved the kind of frame. So I'm getting again this out there. And again, he points out, as already referred to, the genius she had for coining names. He unfavorably compares her to, for example, to another great writer of children's literature, Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland and Alice. Now, I'm not sure that's quite a fair comparison, because Lewis Carroll, of course, was a mathematician. and a maths don at Christ Church College in Oxford. And there are in many of his books, there are wonderful metaphysical passages and humorous passages, but I don't find those anything. Maybe again, it's an unfair comparison, but I don't find anything like that in what I've read of Harry Potter. But there's this fact that, of course, the magical world, it consists of spells and curses, charms, exercising control over the natural world. Well, the natural world, in the world of Harry Potter. And of course, and Hogwarts is like creepy college. I mean, it's on a castle, set on an island. And I think, if I remember correctly, once you got off the train for Hogwarts, you've got to take a boat. I'm not sure if I remember this correctly. But Hogwarts, Scruton points out, has all the characteristics of a public school. It's got a hierarchy. It's got, of course, the masters. It's got the prefects, the figure of public schools, and some say the lecture hall looks like a huge chapel, but he points out there is no altar at Hogwarts. There is no altar.
Frank,
There is no
altar. In most public schools, there is a great emphasis on the chapel and observing a sort of a Anglican structure. Is it anything like that in Hogwarts?
There is the structure in terms of the arrangement of the teaching. There are professors. There is a dining hall. There are houses, and the name of the house is very important. Gryffindor, and many other names. Like in some of the colleges, public schools, they got houses. In Eton, I think they got houses. I've not been to Eton, but I had friends who were old Etonians. And one was my lodger, and also Mary Abbas Kensington. And but there is always paraphernalia. She modeled it. And actually, one of the sites I forgot to mention, but it's not in London, but it's in Oxford. The dining hall for Hogwarts is modeled after the dining hall in Christ Church College in Oxford.
Father Frank, that's not quite an answer to my question, which is really, is there any counterpart to the religious elements that one finds at public schools?
Sorry.
It seems that there isn't.
I did not grasp fully your question.
No,
I mean, according to Scruton, the answer would be no.
Yeah.
And I think, unless some of you can correct me, I think he is right. But also Scruton makes an important point, I think, between religion and magic. Religion, and here, of course, we're talking of a Christian religion. I don't know about other religions, of course, a religion coverable is not, but it's, there is a key category in the religious life is prayer. Prayer. There are different kinds of prayers, of course. There are prayers in which you ask for things, prayers in which you ask for others, prayers in which you simply adore. But prayer is not about controlling the world around you. Prayer is not meant to twist God's arm, so to speak.
Right.
But magic does. Magic, not leaving aside God, magic does. Magic. I find it interesting in the later stage of Greek philosophy. Greek philosophy, is a composite. It was not all rationalistic, but the rational element in Greek philosophy was well, initially pre-Socratic, rational, but also the scientific aspect. But then with Plato, Aristotle, and the Stoics, the rational element is very important. But then Greek philosophy, and there is a very good book by Professor Dodd, The Greeks and the Irrational. Greek philosophy has a decline. And with writers like Proclus, it becomes as if they're contaminated with spells and incantations. They prayed for the moon to come down into particular idols and so on. So in a way, Greek philosophy became contaminated with superstition, with magic. Now, I have to say the different views of magic now, and this is probably invoking some two big guns. Wittgenstein wrote a very fabulous essay, which is entitled Remarks on Sir James Fraser's Golden Bough.
That's
James Fraser wrote a very important, interesting book of magic, a study of magic in, using the word primitive societies. Today we would take a different word, not really. And basically, he described magic as a result of ignorance. A primitive man, a primitive mind, was not aware of causal connections. And by sticking a pin into an image of someone, you cause the person whose image it is to fall ill or something like that. It comes up in horror movies even today a lot. But Wittgenstein pointed out, no. And he said, Sir James was actually more primitive than the savages he discusses, because the primitive man, the savage man, was not ignorant of causal connections at all. Primitive man knew how to sharpen the arrow, the points of his arrows. He knew how to sharpen up his lances. He knew how to build a hut so that he wouldn't fall down. So he knew the causalities. But what magic was in the world analyzed by Sir James Fraser, for one of the famous myths, which he discussed in the myths of the King of the Woods and Demai, which is a place near Rome. But I don't want to get too much into this. But so Wittgenstein's, it is the magic in these so-called primitive society is an expression of a way of life. It is a way of life. It connects up with many aspects of a life of the so-called savage man. So it is, but in a way, it links up with Wittgenstein notion of games, language games, blah blah blah. But so coming back to magic, if magic is, but obviously JK Rowling will say, well, I mean, this is children's literature, isn't it? Or well, it's fantasy literature, so I'm not. But in a way, I don't want that. There is something, do we know what kind of results this kind of literature might have had in the minds of many people? Away from the big guns, from Scruton and Wittgenstein, there is a character in the Harry Potter stories, Professor Pomona Sprout. She's a professor, herbology, Sprout, and she's played by Miriam Margolyes. And Miriam Margolyes, I believe, is retired in New Zealand, or she was. She's one of the professors, good professor, Hogwarts. And she gave an interview. She said she actually got quite a bit of flack for that. I worry about Harry Potter's fans because they should be over all that by now. And it's 25 years ago, and it's children, but now they're stuck in it. Margolyes also said that she gets video messages from people, Harry Potter fans, asking her to take part in Harry Potter themed weddings. She wonders, gosh, what's her first night of fun going to be in bed? I can't think about it. Well, magic sex, I'm sure that at least Crowley believed in magic sex, but I'll leave it on one side. Well, I think I have actually shot all my Oh my gums here.
Well, but while
Well,
you're thinking, sorry, Janine, did you want to?
well, yeah, I'd like to ask Father Frank a question. I saw the first movie. I didn't go back to see the other ones. Although I've seen parts of them, scenes. And one question I had about Hogwarts as a school, and this whole idea of separating people into magicians and not magicians and purebloods, which, considering what's going on today, the idea of holy blood and all these things are coming around again. Um, what exactly is the commission for the graduates? I could never understand that. What is their purpose in acquiring these magical skills? There didn't seem to be a message for young people that allegedly she was writing for. Uh, what what are they supposed to do with it now that they have it? In other words, is it just to fight muggles or protect muggles or go out and proselytize and make magic profitable? What exactly is the purpose of the school? Now, having said that, the visualization in the movies of the moving staircase and the talking pictures, and it's visually very interesting as a film, but I could never really get a handle on it. And when Zed was talking about reading the short story and not really getting the message, I really related to that in terms of Harry Potter. What exactly is the message?
If I could just add, because Janine's question is very similar. It might well be exactly the same as I was going to ask. You made a distinction about magic. Maybe the distinction between magic and religion is that the magician tries to form the world according to his own will, whereas the devotee tries to have the world form his own will, according to a divine purpose. What is the kind of thinking behind how the magicians will use these powers, as Janine said? What's the kind of commission they've been given to fulfill a useful function in society?
And does Rowling address that issue? Maybe she doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for both questions. Now, coming to Janine first. So what is the purpose of a message? Now, of course, the idea is there is a battle between good and evil. And that is often, it's overworked theme. I mean, even in detective stories are usually a battle. I mean, but not projected on such a grand scale. And also, I mean, the fact that Draco Malfoy is a bully, again, this the idea that in schools there's someone disagreeable who makes your life difficult. So I suppose teaching, Draco Malfoy is not his father is a follower of Voldemort, but he's not supposed to be a follower of Voldemort. But the idea again is combating cruelty. But other figures are cruel. For example, Dolores, the bureaucrat Dolores, what's her name? Forgot I mentioned her. Dolores Umbridge. Dolores Umbridge. She's not. She's a bureaucrat. She's cruel in a way which is not particularly metaphysical. But there are all these messages which are given out on a small scale. But on the grand scale, supposedly, if you got this gift of magic, then you're supposed to use magic for good purposes. And the good purpose in this case is fighting Voldemort in a court of evil. So he's simplifying it a great deal, but he sees the world, as it were, as haunted by a shadow of evil. So in that sense, there's a projection of, it could be it's dualistic. It is dualistic, that's the word. It's not so much Christians. Christianity doesn't agree with dualism. It's dualistic. But dualism is always fun, isn't it? Because it's so easy to, even in my book, which you hear more than once, it's uploaded on Amazon. Even just dualism of a kind there, but never mind. As I said before, probably would fall flat and nobody would give a damn to pay attention to it. But never mind. So maybe illusions are necessary, but provided are not delusions. But anyway, coming to question, State's question. So State's question was, please remind me again.
Well, it was similar to Janine's. I mean, they're trying to learn how to shape reality according to their will. But what is the broader picture in which their kind of will expresses itself? I mean, what kind of, how are they supposed to use their will? I mean, I mean, it's very similar to Janine's question, really. It obviously there's no implication that there is. I mean, is there a beneficent power in the universe that there's somehow under an obligation to accord with, or there's nothing like that? There's no grand philosophical scheme.
Yes, I mean, I don't see a cosmic element in Harry Potter. But certainly, but it could be read into it. And once again, the good people in Harry Potter. I mean, Harry apart, his family's right, but Hermione, quite like Hermione, the bright young girl, and later on she becomes quite attractive, of course. And she's now 35. Emma Watson, isn't she? She's involved in some projects for the United Nations or whatever. But they are, she's, again, in this case, she's quite good looking. Yes, she's a pretty girl. Ron, the boy, the second boy, he's a portray sometimes a bit of a sicko, but he's a kind of stooge to Harry Potter. Actually, incidentally, something which I can't understand is because eventually they marry. And Hermione marries Ron. Well, I always thought I should have married Harry.
So I mean, Harry Potter remains
in the end, in the final book, the final story, the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows final chapter takes place 19 years after the final chapter, 19 years after the last episode in the saga, and they are taking their children to Hogwarts, and Harry has married someone called Ginny. Ginny is, I always find her sort of a Ginny. The actress was very wishy-washy, but that's just me, forgive me. And married Ginny, she's actually related, I think she's related to Ron somehow, but all these intricate connections, I find at some stage I just gave up. I don't want to know too many details. But anyway, she marries Ginny and they have a child, and the child is the one whom they take to Hogwarts, and eventually he's unhappy there, and he thinks has been discriminated against, and he's in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is a play now performed.
May I ask, does Harry Potter marry someone who is also in the magical lineage, or does he marry a muggle?
Ginny is also magical. Yes.
Okay. Ginny
is magical, whereas Hermione marries Ron, and they're both magicians. They're both magicians, no question there.
It is one of the appeals of the series, this quite intricate sort of whirling galaxy of rather fascinating characters that are well characterized. Is that part of the appeal of the book? It's like an alternative world.
Well, it must be, because they're all curses. For example, one of the magic formulas which which Harry uses, which initially from the film I did not hear quite properly, is you know, the abracadabra, we're supposed to have a magic formula to conjure up spirits or whatever. But in the sheer truth is something which is abracadabra or whatever. but again, they're all magic formulas, and their figures like Patronus. A Patronus is a positive character, which is counterblasted by something else. So there is a profusion of this, and you have the Horcruxes, which is magical object and magical entities. At some stage, you know, I wanted to give the general outlines of Harry Potter. I didn't want to get bogged down into the details, unless some of you can contribute some wisdom. I mean, Hereward, are you a Harry Potter? It would be nice to hear from Hereward.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, Heward, could you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Oh, Heward, is it Heward?
Ask you on mute, yeah.
Heward,
Good,
Heward, always something interesting to say.
I've avoided the whole the JK Rowling phenomenon, and you've intrigued me with some of the things that you've said, and I rather reluctantly feel I may have to dip my toe into this.
Oh my God, what have I done?
Frank, you've taken away valuable time from you.
This maelstrom, because I was listening to what you were saying about the huge success of the stories. I mean, I don't know how it stands up against people like Stephen King and so on, but it certainly used to be said that Agatha Christie had sold over 1 billion books, and that's in a day of lower population, no internet, and so on and so forth.
All right, okay.
But I don't know what the state of play is and how we compare, you know, 1 billion now with 1 billion then, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Agatha Christie clearly pioneered something very potent in the form of the detective novel, and even though, say, someone like P.D. James is considerably more epistemologically sophisticated and aware than Agatha Christie was, nevertheless, she created this genre more than anyone else has done. There are obviously the signs in the 19th century, Wilkie Collins and the Dickens of Bleak House and Great Expectations and so on. But nevertheless, the full-blown phenomenon is down to Agatha Christie. And that obviously corresponds to something very deep in our civilization, in the what Nietzsche calls the death of God, the loss of faith, and the secularization of the world leaves people with a hole in their understanding of the world and a very, very strong drive for someone to explain what is really going on, whether it's Poirot or Miss Marple or Inspector Dalgleish or whoever. Now, the scale of the phenomenon that JK Rowling clearly has created, I would think must correspond to something. This is why I think I may have to buckle up my armor of righteousness and actually read some of it, because clearly she's struck a chord, and I would like to know what that chord is. Why at this point in time, when science is at some level almost omnipotent, if anything is omnipotent, why is the recourse to magic so potent, and a kind of creative humor of magic so potent? So I'm left with a puzzle. I'm very grateful to you for the detail and richness of the talk you have given us, and I probably will feel obliged to follow it up.
Well, I
Thank you.
mean,
Nice
thank you
words,
for
thank
your wisdom, Heward, and yeah, I mean, especially very apposite to make the reference to Nietzsche, the death of God. Now, one doesn't necessarily want to carry this too far, but the sense in which the fascination, but this is obviously it's fantasy literature, but its enormous success says something about culture as well. So if God dies, you know what takes over instead. No, you don't have to get go to evil, no, because Harry Potter, there is a battle against evil in a way, but certainly there is. I would say again, now we see almost a correspondence with the decline of Greek philosophy in its later stage. It's falling back into irrationalism, as Professor Dodd comments in his book.
Back from logos to mythos.
Indeed, yes, indeed.
I have
yes,
a question.
Oh, Carl, yeah, please.
Of course,
Oh,
Plato
sorry,
does use
finish off,
mythology.
thank you.
Plato does use myths as well. But certainly, again, I mean, maybe one has to try not to be too unfair because to Rowling, she maybe partly willingly, partly unwillingly, she created this literature. Because an author always often expresses more that he or she means.
She's
But
obviously
maybe,
created a world. I guess I would probably follow up in some way by just taking a little sniff at a comparison between her world and the later operas of Richard Wagner, The Ring in particular.
interesting. Yes.
That might explain Roger Scruton's interest in that case.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Oh, certainly it was, yes.
Does anyone have any opinions about well, in the United States, you had 20 postage stamps, U.S. postage stamps with Harry Potter. The Americans here, did you remember those? There were 20 of them, and it was a big commemorative set, and almost all of them were very dark. It's very strange that something that dark would be promoted by the government, but I think it's a purpose behind it. I really think they're trying to draw people into the occult. That's what they're doing, and it's not just with those stamps. There's other stamps you see. Yeah, go ahead, Edith.
Well, I can answer that because I've been reading some interviews with the author. And she's actually, unlike most authors, she's very open about her motives. And her motive, because they're directed initially for children, she didn't expect adults to read them as well. She wanted to stop this sort of snowflake society that with the disappearance of Christianity, she wanted to get children used to death, disaster, evil, and tyranny, and that life is not a bed of roses. She wanted to create, but she does it through, I mean, I haven't read any of the books, so, I'm just going by because she's been unusually open about her motives, which are dead simple. And they're what Heward spotted it at once, of course. She's trying to sort of help children navigate the awfulness that they see unless they, ostriches every day on their news or even in their own street or whatever, or just in life. And and that is her very simple. I mean, she expresses herself very well. The interviews are excellent.
She wants to create modern fairy tales, from what you've said.
Well, exactly, because Bruno Bettelheim, the child psychologist, was very insistent that you should have these very dark, full text. You know, Grimm's fairy tales are really quite horrific. And C.S. Lewis had the same aim in his Narnia books.
And so has Lewis Carroll, if you read him carefully.
Sorry?
Lewis Carroll, even
Yes,
though
absolutely.
he manages to
All
be very
this has been,
playful,
but you know,
it's
I
a
mean,
very
I
dark
think,
world.
yes, absolutely. And but it's really, I mean, I think she's must be a most extraordinary person, because she obviously made a decision. I don't know why, because I haven't read enough interviews with her. I only was just looking quickly whilst you were talking, I'm afraid. Yes, that is her aim, to help children out of this ridiculous mollycoddling snowflake, you know, toxic positivity. And I'm afraid, you know, this is obviously my bandwagon. I'm back on it now. But she, you know, she spotted it and she's done something about it, which has been very effective. And she particularly mentions in one interview that she wants children to notice political tyranny in the real world sooner than most people do, because she sees the main problem with mollycoddling children is that they don't recognize tyranny, especially when it creeps in through the long march through the institutions or whatever. I mean, they know about Hitler, they know about Stalin, they know about Pol Pot, etc., but they don't recognize it in their own country, and the dangers, because it's very insidious. So she's quite open about it.
Father Frank, does that accord well with your experience of the text, that they do seem to reflect that intention?
Well, I was interested in what Edith was saying.
Well, it's her, what she says, not what I say. It's what the author.
Okay, yeah. I find that on the face of it pretentious, especially claims concerning politics, tyranny. Well, I mean, I don't know what particular episode she might have, but as you might know, she ran into relative trouble. I mean, all the money she has, I don't think she's worried about being sued or anything over the trans issue. She has clashed with the trans brigade. Now, I don't know if what she had in mind when she gave an interview was a cultural tyranny, in the sense that now the voice of a trans is heard and paid as particular attention or respect. I don't know. I'm to clue, but I don't think on the face of the Harry Potter stories there is a particular emphasis. There is no tyrant in Harry Potter. There is Voldemort, but Voldemort is just a bogey, if you like. Incidentally,
I haven't read them, but she said that was her aim. So maybe she was too subtle, you know.
Sorry, come again?
Maybe she's been too subtle in her thing, but she said that was her intent.
Oh, well, maybe she's as you say. Now, incidentally, in this book, which Harry Potter's book, which I know I'm getting but she's also written another book, which is entitled The Tales of Beedle the Bard by JK Rowling. This is someone who tells tales, isn't he? And he's a moralist, a magician, and, pay attention, a great liberal. A great liberal. And I would have thought that today we're having a dictatorship, a tyranny, the dictatorship of tyrannical liberalism, which is imposed by all the media and all the. But anyway, leaving it aside.
Yeah, the Scottish National Party.
But you know what? Her story, of course, is interesting. Apparently, what I read online, of course, she wasn't happy with her family. She speaks about abuse, and eventually she spent some time in Portugal. She got married to someone in Portugal who beat her, an abusive husband, and eventually she divorced him. I'm sure the guy is regretting the divorce. He was still married to her. He was quite well off. And then she ended up in Edinburgh. And one of the sites which I should have mentioned, connection with Harry Potter, tourism is, of course, there is one or two cafes in Edinburgh which are mythologized as cafes in which she wrote the Harry Potter stories. So she was in Edinburgh to do to teach a training course, but I've not been able to come across. She got a degree from any. She was born in Gloucestershire, but I don't remember. She must have a degree to have done a training.
She's a GP, I think, a doctor of medicine, I think, originally.
She's a doctor of medicine?
I think so, yeah. I mean,
You're talking about JK Rowling?
Yeah.
Doctor of medicine?
Well, I don't know. I could have got that wrong. I
don't think you have, I'm afraid. Yes, I don't think she's a doctor of medicine.
I would imagine we would.
It's a magic. It's magic.
Yeah. That would seem a significant fact that would probably have percolated through that fact if it were true. I don't know. It seems.
No. I mean,
sorry, I probably got that wrong. But the other thing she says very definitely is that she is trying to recreate the message of Christianity, but without using Christianity. But she even gives in one interview the text of the sections of the Bible that she has based certain bits of her book on. So she's a full-on Christian. But being a full-on Christian, you see, in America in particular, Christianity has become associated with what people call Care Bears Christianity, which is it's all fluffy pink clouds, Jesus loves you, the world is wonderful, and if it's not, America will fix it, and it will make everything lovely. And everybody's got sick to the stomach of it. And she's obviously waded in and through fiction has decided that I'm going to deliver Christianity as the Bible does, which is full of horror, terror, pain, agony, crucifixion, throwing people down wells in the, and whatever. But I'm going to have it all in there, like in the Old Testament and the New Testament. But I'm going to, do it because nobody goes to church. You go to church. You cut all those bits out.
Is that
it's all the nice bits in?
Sorry, Janine, what did you want to say?
Well, and Edith, I really appreciate you revealing that, because one of the problems that I have with the movie, and I don't know because I haven't read the book, and I realize that they're different, when you make a movie out of a book. But the thing that gets me is magic is not the answer to problem solving. If you're going to be an adult, in other words, it's one thing to present problems. It's another thing to show problem solving as magic, because it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think she does that in the books, and the Bible certainly doesn't. It just says, "Look, my kingdom is not of this world, so don't."
Right, which is removal, right, from you're in the world, not of the world, is what Christianity says. But what Rowling seems to present is, if you have special powers, if you invoke, and it all comes down to supernaturalism. If you're talking magic, you're talking supernatural, which is a different category than spiritual supernaturalism, right? God working through you, as opposed to waving a magic wand. Now I realize this is supposed to be for kids, but teaching children that problem solving happens by special people who know about magic doesn't seem to be very wise to me.
No, that's why I thought, like you, I thought her books sounded toxic, poisonous, but I think I may have got because I haven't read any of them. This is the danger of dismissing someone when you haven't read any of their books, but you just got an impression, maybe from the film or from just general thing, that they're one thing. And I mean, what she says is she doesn't want to present that image of magic at all. She just wants to make children more robust and realize that life is going to be absolutely full of terrible things that happen to you, and you've got to try and roll with the punches. You've got to, and there's no solution. And that she says in one interview, they're all about death. I want people to stop pushing death aside as if it doesn't exist.
Yeah, very good points.
Dreadful with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
people should be a little bit cautious, though, about believing writers any more than you should believe politicians.
Well,
I mean,
that's true.
writers might say whatever
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
impressive,
Well,
and
I mean,
particularly,
you know,
as I imagine she made these statements after she wrote the books, and certainly not before, and
Mm, mm.
in response to a political situation that she's got herself enrolled in, which I think surprised her more than anyone. It might well be opportune for her to say something like that. It may be true, may not be true. Like you, I haven't read the books. I would be more confident if I'd read the books. Like, I think, actually, is Father Frank, are you the one person here who's read the books? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty well.
it-
Everybody
Right,
said they
okay.
haven't.
I've written books, yeah.
Oh, you,
few pages.
Janine, you've read them.
oh, you've read the books, have you? Or at least one of them? Have you?
No,
You've seen the film.
Oh, I thought you said
yeah.
you'd read it.
no, I
Okay.
said, I write books, and I understand when you're writing them, you may or may not have ethereal intentions. It may be an afterthought for her, as you say, because of the political.
That's
Yeah,
actually
and
another
got
point,
herself wrapped
another
up in.
element that a writer might have insight into his or her own books or come to a conclusion which they hadn't thought of themselves. I mean, that's not
Right.
impossible.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's
Well,
another.
Yeah.
look at the Hunger Games. I don't know if any of you, but I have
Oh.
not seen the films, not read the books, but I have read commentary on Hunger Games where they go into these long psychological explanations of, it's a story of how a introvert realizes she has to depend on other people to help her. And I'm thinking, really? The Hunger Games is about that? And it may be, but one thing I do want to say in defense of her is that Hollywood has a different agenda than Miss Rowling. So I don't know
Yeah,
how she
I agree.
feels about what Hollywood has done to her material.
Does anyone have opinions of Ouija boards?
You know,
Are they accurate? I may go out and buy one.
No, I
Well,
would be
there
very
was a-
careful, very careful. No,
there
no.
was a film actually. I think was it
Exorcist,
entitled
yeah,
Ouija board? The film, which a horror movie about
Oh, a lot of them, yeah.
it's a typical stuff. I remember, I mean, in a moment of because you can't be rational all the time. I vaguely thought it would be interesting to buy a Ouija board, but I couldn't really find anywhere where it could be bought. Well, I'm glad I didn't. But you can use
Well,
you can use it as a joke. But
I've got ideas myself, by the way, on this.
right, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's but I mean, concerning the question of magic, curses, occult, and so on. Even in any say in Catholicism, there are forms of popular Catholicism, not Catholicism which is informed by real theology or doctrine, but popular Catholicism, where there are beliefs which, for example, demonic possession, which, of course, the church will never be able to expunge exorcisms or demonic possessions from practice because they are in the Gospels. In all the three
Yeah,
synoptic
well,
Gospels, Jesus carries out exorcism.
There's one exorcist in the United States who's, I can't remember his name, but he's very convincing to me. I think he's done lots of exorcisms.
Well, at the end of the day, if you strip away all the theatrics, exorcism consists of a number of prayers. Number of prayers which you say to restore the health of a person, mental as well as physical. So, but of course, in more popular representations, but I was thinking also other episodes like, for example, a few cases of people who claimed, usually friars, who have the stigmata.
Oh, yeah.
The
Padre Pio.
and across Padre Pio, actually, a figure for whom I have a great deal of regard. And yeah, I'm very fond of Padre Pio. My mum was very, very fond of Padre Pio. But these are forms of popular spirituality, which, they're not really about twisting God's arm, but I mean, they are certainly not quite, maybe in some ways, it could be compared to Bye-bye, Howard. Thank you so much for your
Bye,
input.
Howard.
yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very
Right,
much.
he
Appreciate your
Made a
time.
very good
Nice
point
to
about
Enjoyed your
Nietzsche,
comments.
Nietzsche, death of God. Thank you. But
um,
yeah, so, and of course in Hinduism, I'm sure Stead knows a great deal about Hinduism. In Hinduism, there are great
Well,
deal of practices.
let me
which
tell you
have to
a
do
friend of
with,
mine.
So
Yeah, oh, sorry.
religion, but even popular Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, full of curses and magic and everything else. So the different ways of understanding those phenomena. But here we are talking about books written for children
Right, but
by
it's tying in with the
by a very
occult bit there.
able writer. As I agree with Scruton, she's a very able writer. And he also mentioned how her plots actually they function quite well. They do not creak. They're very. But the question is, I mean, Edith was mentioning as she interview, she speaks about Christianity, the Bible. I'm sorry, I completely failed to see that, especially invoking the Bible. I think is a bloody cheek, if I may say so, because she may be very successful as a writer. I mean, many great writers, many writers
Yeah,
be very
well,
successful.
it's two different things. Yeah,
She's
I mean,
not.
you know,
she's
I've
not,
seen. Okay, sorry, but I've seen. I'm sorry to kind of get into the
No,
demon
get
stuff.
on. Okay, Carl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, a film I've seen that is a wonderful film, and I didn't feel any real negativity from it, and that
I'm
was The
sorry,
Curse of the
Carl, what
Demon.
film is that? What film?
Oh, The Curse of the Demon or The Night of the
Curse of the
Demon.
Demon. Oh, Demons
Neil
don't,
McGuinness
whatever.
and Dana Andrews is one of the best films ever
Oh, it's a
made.
great film.
Oh, yeah,
It's a great
yeah.
film. I've seen it. I always love seeing it. It's complete
terrific film.
gobbledygook, of course. Complete gobbledygook.
Yeah. Well, now
but
then
it's
there's
great
one.
to watch.
So
It's
that
my
was a good.
favorite. And I like
That's
Dan
one of my
Andrews.
favorites. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Well, then there's another one that is really a frightening film. A lot of things happened on the set, and actually, this will sound strange, but I don't even want to say the name of it, but I will. The Exorcist. I was talking about with a friend, and all of a sudden I felt I could feel a negative spirituality because I'm very sensitive right now. And so I said, let's get this, we got it behind us. He said, but that's the way, because I think with that one, I think the devil is really, that's really his territory on that, and I know he's involved in that. So I know.
Oh, I'm sure the devil has got a finger in many pies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has many fingers.
Especially in Keir Starmer, the current prime minister of his country. But
Is Voldemort, is he supposed to be evil?
Voldemort, that is an
The devil,
interesting
the
idea.
devil?
Keir Starmer is Voldemort. Sorry.
Sorry,
Go for it.
question, Janine. What's Janine's question?
Is in Harry Potter, is Voldemort, is he supposed to be the devil?
No, I mean,
What do you
that
think?
would
Do you
be,
think-
no, he's not the devil because that will make his opponents like angels or Christian figures. It's not, it's about, it's in the world of witchcraft. There's good witchcraft, there's bad witchcraft. But he's got top evil powers in the sense of Voldemort.
Okay.
But I mean, to mention the devil, you got to have you speak of God as well. And there is no God in Harry Potter, in my opinion. But there is, but
There's no
which is
God in
not
Tolkien,
to,
is there? I mean,
this
I
is
don't
not to, this is not to damn. I mean, she's very able, and I'm not saying she's bad or anything, but she has created a world which is problematical.
Father Frank, just to change the direction with perhaps a final question, could you comment on her style of writing? How does she portray events? I mean, presumably it's with a fairly limited vocabulary that will be understandable for younger readers, or
it seems to me she's got quite an easy style of writing. There are lots of dialogues, lots of conversations, which are always easy to digest.
Indeed.
Only occasionally, but I'm leafing just to refresh I'm leafing through this book. It's mostly conversations and mostly dialogues. And the paragraphs are short, very short, only dialogue. So she's got a very easy, and I read it's quite long, this book, actually. How many pages? I got, yeah, it's over 600 pages. It's divided into chapters. And I focus on chapters. I like the title, and they were readable. So she's readable. And in fact, when I read my first Harry Potter, must have been in 1999, because there was all this fuss about Harry Potter, and I decided I'd go find out. So I got myself the first Harry Potter, and I couldn't put it down. I kept turning the page.
Oh, really? That is interesting.
You know,
say. Yeah, that's
the
a
ultimate
skill, isn't it?
criterion.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
keep
yeah.
turning the page,
yeah.
I mean, it may well be we want to see how bad it is, but I mean, so she's good at writing. She can write.
That is a key thing to say, isn't it? Indeed.
So she's
Great.
good at that.
How's her nonfiction?
But of course, there is no. I mean, maybe it's a terribly unfair comparison, but there is no Dostoevsky in Harry Potter.
Yes.
I know, you know, I'm comparing one of the deepest Russian writers, but in Dostoevsky there is crime, there is evil, but
Well, it's surely interesting you mentioned Dostoevsky, because he had that remarkable talent of wanting people to read more. I mean, that's how he made the money. That is his ability. Despite all the depth of Dostoevsky, there is this thriller element. From the first sentences of Crime and Punishment, you're fascinated by this student living in this tower and avoiding his landlady. It has that same compulsion, and I think if he hadn't been able to do that, he probably wouldn't have sold books at all.
It
was an interesting point, actually. Immediately you said that, I thought, Dong, you know, because Dostoevsky had that as well, and so did Dickens, I suppose. Yes,
in magazines, so people wanted to buy the next.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But I mean, it was George Orwell who commented on the figure of a policeman in Crime and Punishment, Porfiry Petrovich. And George Orwell said something which always stuck in my mind. You know, a conversation between Porfiry Petrovich, the policeman, and Raskolnikov. Can you imagine an English policeman having this kind of conversation? I mean, Porfiry Petrovich is very Russian. Sorry, Raskolnikov, of course. So he goes, you know, can you imagine? The other day, I have no experience with English cops. Only once there was a deputy assistant commissioner of Scotland Yard who knocked on my door. That is many years ago. And I opened the door at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was disheveled and didn't look too good. And this policeman showing me his badge, accompanied by his policewoman, says, Reverend Gelli, I'm Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Alan White, his name was. You give an interview of Princess Diana. I want to give you to ask you some questions.
Oh, really?
So I can say I met a real policeman, but otherwise I don't know English police, but I wouldn't expect that to have a metaphysical, unlike the Russian cops. Or at least Russian cops in Dostoevsky.
Well, that's I do have one last question for you, and that is, how much does Harry Potter reflect the English sensibility as opposed to an American sensibility or a Russian sensibility or a German sensibility in terms of the language that she uses as a writer?
Well, of course, I'm Italian, so you've got to count. I mean, I don't know about the English sensibility. There are people here who can answer a question better than me. But, well, I mean, incidentally, all the characters in the Harry Potter films have to be British, because it was apparently one of the roles was it Robin Williams? Was an American actor. He was offered a role, but he couldn't accept it because he wasn't British. So they all have to be British. I don't know why. All the character, all the actors who played Harry Potter movies.
When you say they have to be British, says who?
Well, I don't know.
I think she.
I don't know, but I remember reading that Robin Williams could not take up a job because he wasn't English.
I'm glad
I
he
can't
didn't.
imagine American audiences, and though Harry Potter is a big thing in America, of course, but
So-
I can't imagine Harry Potter actually taking place in America Where in the world would Hogwarts exist in America? New Jersey? Is there such a place?
No, Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Vanderbilt.
maybe you're right, Carl. I
Of
just,
course, Hogwarts doesn't exist in England as well, because Hogwarts, once
right,
you've gone
but it's
through the
believable.
wall in the platform 9 3/4 King's Cross, you find yourself there taking a train for a different world, a world of imagination. So
True.
there's no Hogwarts doesn't exist in this country.
I can imagine a sort of answer to that point about not having British people, because as I understand it, there's an element, must be an element of appeal of the nostalgia in these books for a kind of in no way perfect world, but a very unmodern world, a very unscientific world in which things are very much a closed society. But the public school is obviously the hothouse, the closed society, and so obviously is Hogwarts, and this elitism and this speciality. And if you have someone with an American or Australian accent, that's going to throw you back into the modern world by remembering, oh, there is an America, there is an Australia. So
Yeah,
I can quite understand the director not wanting to do that, because you've immediately got the feeling, oh, this student has come over from America, and think, well, what, America? Yes, he flown over. You know, there's too much of the modern world intrudes in that. That would be my guess.
It's interesting, but sorry, I forget now what I was going to say.
I'll just ask a very quick question. Father Fact, is there a king in the realm where Hogwarts resides, or you know, is to be found? I mean,
no, there is no, as far as
king or
I know,
queen
there
or
isn't a
something.
king in
There is
there
no
is no king in the
reference to
world of Hogwarts.
Oh,
And
okay.
incidentally, Hogwarts itself is an interesting name, you know, because it's not Hogwarts, horse and a hog.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Hogwarts,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
horse
strange.
and a hog. That sounds somewhat, you know, it's not, but it is the college where the kids go. But it's the other thing I wanted to say was that Hogwarts is fashioned after a public school, but it's a very politically correct public school.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because,
Yeah,
for example,
they've got women and men.
Yeah, it's
there, which is
co-educational.
not a good thing. Not a good thing.
It is. Sorry, I got to say this. I mean, it's multi-ethnic. Now, all
Sorry, in the film or in the books, or both?
well, I assume in the books as well. I can't imagine she will not be. But in all the films, Hogwarts is multi-ethnic. Actually, but you can't imagine an English public school which does not allow minorities. It will not be legal. But
yeah,
I don't know how to articulate this. It's a very sort of, in my opinion, it's quite politically correct.
PC, is that the word you'd appear? I don't know, PC or
PC or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they have corporal punishment in Hogwarts?
No.
Oh, well, I'm not interested then.
There is no corporal, although the bureaucrat, what's her name? Dolores
Umbridge, no.
Dolores Umbridge. She does some kind of physically unpleasant to Harry's hand. So, but she's not being a teacher. She's an envoy who's taken over.
But I mean, wasn't she some sort of government official, a government official?
Yeah. So she's not. There is no. But the question, I mean, corporal punishment would be legal in this country, wouldn't it? Anyway,
which I find incredible. But anyway, that's another thing. I will have to go soon. I don't know whether we've been.
Sorry, may I ask you a question, Steve?
Yeah, of course.
And a friend of mine, Yvonne, she was interested in the discussion, but she was looking after her husband's recovery from an operation. She asked me if there was a recording. Presumably.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
How would you get access to the recording?
Go to the London Blot YouTube channel. That it will be uploaded there.
Under what?
Under
Soteria.
Yeah, there's a list of things called Soteria. Yeah. And well, I mean, if she just types Harry Potter on that website, it will be found. Anyway, I mean, we can send it to you and you can forward it to her.
Well, I mean, she told me she was interested, but I mean,
Yeah,
she hasn't.
well, I can send you a link to it, and you can forward it. To
Okay,
her.
yes, I
That's
will.
probably
Yeah,
the
okay,
best
thank you very
thing.
much.
That's
Thank you.
good. So I mean, Michael, should we wind it
Yeah,
up there?
We probably wind it up unless, I mean,
Yeah.
but you can leave it for anybody. I've fine. We've talked about it probably long enough, but maybe other people. I find that absolutely fascinating. And
Thank you.
yes, I mean, I've got such a long to read list. I don't know that I'll live long enough to, but it certainly should be included on that list.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on.
Children. She meant them for children, but there's so many adults who are so deprived of Dostoevsky, but we're not deprived. We don't have to read Harry Potter.
Well, that's another way of putting it.
Dostoevsky, but there's so many adults who never read anything. Maybe John Grisham, or something that they buy at the airport. And
that's the sad point about her, isn't it? That she was the last, I would suggest, of the read authors, and sort of after that, you had the smartphones and everything, and children have stopped reading. She probably will be the last writer that children really read.
That's a good point, isn't it? That's a good point. Yeah. Smartphones.
The fact that so many adults read them says something about our world, which Heward, of course, zoomed in on straight away, on the sort of bigger picture nature of the world all over the world, not just in the Western world, is that people are starved of I don't know what a word for. I mean, you have to ask Heward, but he's gone now, as always. But the thing is, she must be very surprised, because she wrote them for children, and what it exposed was that so many adults, younger than us, are absolutely starved of any content that has meaning, that non-material, metaphysical, I suppose is the word. I don't know what. Anyway, so I think
in America, the Twilight series, the vampire teenage love angst.
Well, maybe that was the last, right? Yeah, came a little bit later. That might be the last one.
Incredible.
Yes.
How many adults?
I know we got to go, but have you read Michael Moorcock, and do you recommend his books? Anyone?
I have.
Michael Moorcock, as far as I know, is science fiction, isn't he?
Right, fantasy too.
Yes.
And I used to be a fan of science fiction, but science fiction I was a fan of dates back to when I was a young man or boy. So all the great writers which I remember, Isaac Asimov, Jack Williamson, Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick has had some kind of renaissance, has come back.
Yeah.
They're not, but the contemporary, I thought science fiction today is virtually dead, because I never, Moorcock, I must admit, no, I've never read him, but what I read about him annoyed me slightly. So I decided, I'm not going to read this, but I think he wasn't, sorry, I have to say I don't really know him, but I felt that some writers maybe very dogmatic on me, whom I feel I don't want to know.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, I read one of his novels, Count Brass, which was a Dorian Hawkmoon novel, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was, it appeared serialized in a science fiction magazine in the United States. It was published over in Britain first, I think. But I was very pleased with it. My father read it when he was in Australia, and he thought it was awful, but I thought it was great. And I have very exacting tastes, I think.
The science fiction writer I would recommend to you, Carl, is Cordwainer Smith.
Oh, yes, I've heard. I've never read it.
It's superb.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Superb.
What's his name again, Carl? More what?
Oh, Michael Moorcock, Moorcock.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jeanine, I recommend Cordwainer Smith.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I know he'll be really good.
World.
Oh, I've got one story just to mention that I recommend to everyone. I hope you would like it. It's called I Am Nothing, and it's by an Englishman, Eric Frank Russell. And it's one of my favorite stories of all time. And science fiction, it has a science fictional background, but it's one of the most touching stories I've ever read my whole life. So it's called I Am Nothing.
Well, we've had a nice number of recommendations from different people, so that's good. That's good. It's one of the things that this group is for, I think, to exchange.
Instead, as you're still there, can I sort of pick you up for what's a good Sunday for the next Soteria in October.
Uh,
Oh, incidentally, I just read Hayward's message on chat. Yes, she got a degree from Exeter University.
yeah, so she wasn't a doctor.
Well, to have done the teacher training course, so he had to have a degree.
When this is you're going to be
On the second
presenting
part of the
another
poetry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when's good for you?
Any Sunday suits me in October, I think. I would suggest then in the middle then, or so it's a sort
Yeah,
of
I think a friend's birthday is the 22nd of October. I don't know whether that falls on a weekend. I'm not looking at a
no,
diary.
that's a Tuesday.
Okay, so that yeah.
Which day again?
Well, we haven't quite decided yet. We're just talking.
Oh, I
about
see.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're talking about
13th,
October.
20th.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything I can think of.
It's just we got so many people here. If we can announce it now, it's just
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
Well, let's say the 20th then.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try for that.
I'm looking at my diary.
Okay.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's always people come and go.
Yeah. Okay. Let's.
Yeah.
Sounds okay.
Okay,
Well,
so-
guys, it's been a pleasure being with you.
Yeah,
today.
thank you very much,
absolutely.
Father Frank. It
Thanks
was,
so much.
as
You know,
always,
thank
it's
you,
sort of
Janine.
it's
That's
extremely
yeah.
interesting.
Jabbering away.
Thank you, Edith.
Thank you
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah.
much.
been
And the
generous
next
with your
time is the
time.
20th. I'll send invitations out, of course.
Okay.
All right then. Thanks very much.
Thanks
Okay.
very much,
Thank
everybody.
you.
God bless
Enjoy the
everybody.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.